What is going on, everyone? It is time for our final installment of the ranking of all 50 states. If you haven't seen the first two videos, there's a link in the description below and also at the end of the video. In case this is the first video you've watched and you don't have time to go back and watch the other two videos, here's a quick recap. The first video was filled with states that go from notoriously bad to they could be better. The second video went from I might be willing to live there to I wouldn't mind living there. This last video will be the top 10 places that have far more reasons to move to than not to move to. Now, I'm sure some of you will have a laundry list of reasons one place should be better than another and why some places suck and shouldn't have even been in the top 10, and that's fine. I would love to see your thoughts on the subject in the comment section. What none of us need to see is you telling people that they're wrong and, they don't know what they're talking about. Just remember, no place is perfect. That's why I try to do a positive and a negative side on every location. And stop typing. I know I do far more negative videos than positive videos. I wish I could do more positive videos. It's just a matter of economics. Positive videos get about a quarter of the views negative videos get. It's just what people want to see. If you'd like to see more positive videos, help them out and share them on your social media, whatever. Like, leave a comment, do whatever you can. Maybe we'll make more positive videos. That being said, why don't we finish our video journey to number 1 with the ranking of all 50 states, the top 10. Number 10, Idaho. There's a reason so many people are moving to Idaho. It's a really nice place to live. The state of Idaho does some really good things. They're one of the top 10 states when ranked by fiscal stability. In other words, the state government knows how to budget their money. The landscapes of Idaho are some of the best in the country. If you hike, mountain bike, fish, hunt, ski, camp, whatever, put the rack on the SUV, rent a U-Haul, and head to the Gem State and become one of the 1.7 million people that call the Gem State home. One thing for sure we're going to get in the comment section of this video is people from Idaho making comments about we don't want any Californians moving here. Don't come here and ruin our state like you ruined yours with your liberal ideas. They say that stuff all the time in our comment section. Here's the good news for Idaho. Not many liberals are heading there. 80% of the people heading to Idaho from California are registered Republicans. Liberals are heading to Colorado and Oregon. You're safe. Number 9, Washington. The Evergreen State is Washington's nickname, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they legalized weed some years back. It has to do with the serious amount of trees the state has, for the most part, on the western side. Washington has 7.5 million residents and has about 1,000 trees for each and every one of them. I'm not even kidding. It's like 1,100, really. I like Washington. I go to a couple different places when I want to get away from Oregon and film, whatever, relax. With the Puget Sound and Seattle right there, it's hard to be bored in Washington. Washington has the second best healthcare system in the country, and most of the residents live within a 2-hour drive of Canada, so they can get their meds a hell of a lot cheaper than they can in the United States. This is a great state for people with health issues. A friend from Los Angeles who moved her dad and her family up to Bellingham, Washington, which is right there by the Canadian border, for that reason. She said she saves thousands of dollars every single year, and she's never leaving Washington, I'm sure, even when he passes away. I don't know. Number 8, Colorado. Colorado is one of the best states in the country for families. With towns like Castle Rock, Littleton, Colorado Springs, it's not hard to find a great neighborhood to raise some kids. Whenever I see a list online about great places to live, I find towns in Colorado. Every time I've left Colorado, whether it was when I was stationed there or just visiting, it was depressing to leave. It's just the type of place you just want to stay there. I don't know what it is. It's just something great about this state. Now, I've explained this before. When we decided to leave California, it was going to be Colorado or Oregon. The only reason Oregon became our home is it has a coastline. We need to be by the beach. That's just kind of how we are. If you're a landscape painter or photographer, the landscape is so amazing here, you won't find a more picturesque state to apply your trade. Number 7, Vermont. Vermont is very much like its neighboring state of New Hampshire. The main difference is population. Both states are close to the same size in area, but Vermont has less than half the population. They only have about 600,000 residents, and that's one of its major draws. A lot of people like that. I mean, if you like to be alone in the woods while you drink a bottle of maple syrup, you need to move to Vermont. The Green Mountain State is 6th in healthcare, 6th in education, and 5th in crime. Those are solid numbers. I've never spent enough time in Vermont. Been there a few times. I need to go back. It's a really neat state. I need to spend the holidays there someday. That'd be great. Number 6, New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a New England state that most people not from the right side of the country know anything about. In case you need to find it on a map in a hurry, here's a hint. If you want to drive to Maine, you need to pass through the Granite State to get there. And that's their nickname, the Granite State. They got a lot of granite. That's why. New Hampshire has a great education system, very little crime. Actually, they're the second best in the country when it comes to crime stats. That's pretty cool. And here's another cool one. They are number 1 in a stat called opportunity. That's a stat they get when you measure poverty, housing affordability, equality for women, minorities, and people with disabilities. They're the best in the country for that. Those 3 stats, education, crime, and opportunity, show you the quality of the people that live in this state. This is a great state for anyone to live, unless you're a criminal. I imagine it's really not a good state to live in. Number 5, Wisconsin. The Badger State is a unique state. They are very family and community orientated. I was doing a video about Wisconsin last year and I read a strange article about how people never leave Wisconsin. Now, obviously, I don't mean literally. People do leave the state sometimes. Stop typing. But the article went on to say that unlike most states, a large majority of the kids go to school in the state and remain in the state after college. I forgot the exact stat. I wish I could find it again, but it was much more than any other state. If you ever spend some time with people in Wisconsin or visit Wisconsin, you'll see why. As far as the landscape of Wisconsin goes, it's okay. It's nothing incredible, but its people are its biggest plus. I mean, you gotta love a state which keeps all its crime in one city, and that's Milwaukee. Just stay away from Milwaukee, and it's an incredible state. Number 4, Texas. And now we get to the Lone Star State. From a statistical standpoint, Texas is great on so many levels that in the past when I've done negative videos about Texas, I've had a hard time finding stats that were negative. It's really a rough place to do negative videos about. My only personal gripe about Texas is the heat. Basically, the reason I would never live there is a personal reason only. If you don't mind the heat, I would encourage everyone to give Texas a serious look. And yes, I know there are portions of the state that aren't sweltering most of the year. I get it. Stop typing. And if you don't mind the heat and you like guns, this is your paradise. Number 3, Maine. Lobsters and great people are always easy to find in Maine, and that's just a straight up fact. If you like a quiet type of life and don't mind the cold, you won't find a better place to set down roots. Statistically, Maine is the safest place in the country. Really, they're like number 1 lowest crime in the country. You know you're in the right place when lobster poaching is like a major crime. Maine is called the Pine Tree State for good reason. The whole state smells like Christmas. Every time I've visited Maine, I feel like I'm on a movie set. The towns are adorable, the forests are deep. An army buddy of mine said that when he was growing up in Maine, you camped all the time. It was so safe that he and his friends at like age 12, he said, would camp for like 3 days by themselves. I don't know if this is a thing in other states, but being from Los Angeles originally, I was kind of shocked at that, and the story always stuck with me. You don't camp without grown-ups when you're like 12 years old. That was crazy. But to him, it was perfectly normal. I always loved that story. Number 2, Oregon. The Beaver State is my home state, not because I was born here, but because I was drawn here. I visited a friend who lived in Portland, Oregon while I was in the Army in Washington back in the 90s. From those few trips, I knew I wanted to live in Oregon. Now, it took me about 16 years to finally pull the trigger on that one. My only regret is I didn't do it sooner. I know a lot of people like to make comments that Oregon is the liberal, and then they add whatever the latest conservative catchphrase is, you know, whatever's popular, cesspool, hellhole, whatever. What most of them don't understand, most of Oregon is a red state. Just Portland and Salem are liberal. The good news is nobody ever forces anyone to be a liberal if you move to Portland. So don't be afraid. In Oregon, we make and drink great beer. We go on hikes and drink coffee. The people are great and it's beautiful. And it's only my second favorite state. And number 1, Pennsylvania. Yes, that's right. The Keystone State is number 1. Many of you will disagree, but I will explain and show you why I feel Pennsylvania is the best state in the Union. I know it's Commonwealth, so stop typing. Please. Hear it all the time. If I do mention it's Commonwealth, people tell me that really nobody cares about that. But if I don't mention it, people tell me it's not a state, it's Commonwealth. I can't win on that one. Once you get out of the big cities like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, you have hundreds of small towns that have far too many positives to list in a 10-minute video. I personally think Honesdale, Pennsylvania Pennsylvania is the best small town in America. I did a whole video on the town of just over 4,000 people and another one on the historic Hotel Wayne that sits on Main Street and actually has sat on Main Street since any of us walked the earth. Actually, since 1827, which is long before any of our great-grandparents were whipping around on horseback. Rural Pennsylvania is filled with trees, lakes, and good people. If you hunt, fish, kayak, canoe, like to sit under trees and stare at grass, you need to visit and look at getting some land here in Pennsylvania. For the quality of land, the price was very reasonable. I have looked at buying some land in Honesdale and was pleasantly shocked by what you get for the price. I would encourage everyone to visit a small town in Pennsylvania and see what I'm talking about. Now, I'll actually be going back to Wayne County and Honesdale again soon to show you why I'm so in love with this town, why I'm in love with Pennsylvania. Like I've said before, I'd live there right now, but I was voted down by my family, so they want to stay in Oregon. Now, when I do go to Honesdale and Wayne County, I'm going to try and line up some local officials to talk to about the place, so it just won't be from my eyes. We'll talk to some of them, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. So stay tuned for that.